The distress signal came at the worst possible time. Commander Valus stood on the bridge of the Serenity's Grace, her tall, thin body casting a long shadow across the metal floor. Her skin shimmered like broken glass under the ship's lights. She was Althrani, a species known for their beauty and their fragile bones that could snap like dry twigs. "Commander," said the communications officer, his voice tight with worry. "The signal is coming from a human cargo vessel. It appears to have suffered a catastrophic failure. The ship is breaking apart." Valus felt her stomach turn. She had never met a human before. Few in this sector had. Humans were new to the galactic community, having only achieved faster-than-light travel within the last 50 cycles. They came from a distant arm of the galaxy, from a planet called Earth. The reports about them were strange and contradictory. Some said they were friendly. Others said they were dangerous. Most agreed they were very, very odd. "Any life signs?" Valus asked. The officer checked his console twice before answering. "One. Just one. It is fading." Valus made her decision without hesitation. "Bring them aboard." The rescue team worked fast. They cut through the twisted metal of the human ship and pulled out a single body. It was a female human, according to the biological scanner. She was shorter than Valus expected, with dark hair matted with blood and a face covered in cuts and bruises. Her clothes were torn and burned. She was not moving. They rushed her to the medical bay, where Dr. Thiessen was already waiting. Thiessen was Calvary, a species with 4 arms and gray skin that looked like wet stone. He had 2 hearts, both of which were beating very fast as he looked at the broken human on his table. "Begin the scan," he ordered his assistants. "Full body. I want to see everything." The scanner hummed to life. Blue light swept over the human's body from head to toe. Data began to appear on the holographic display above the table. Thiessen watched the information scroll past, and his 4 hands began to shake. "This cannot be correct," he whispered. His assistant, a young Calvari named Pell, leaned closer to look. "What is it, doctor?" "Fractures," Thiessen said. "Bone fractures. The scanner is detecting 17 of them." Pell's eyes went wide. 17? From the crash? Thiessen shook his head slowly. "No, that is what troubles me. These fractures show signs of healing. They are old. Some are very old. This human has broken 17 bones throughout her life, and somehow she is still alive." In Calvary medical training, they taught that 5 bone fractures was the maximum any species could survive. 7 was theoretical. 10 was impossible. 17 was not even a number they considered. It was like saying someone had survived being cut in half. "There is more," Thiessen continued, his voice dropping to a horrified whisper. "Look at the current damage. 4 broken ribs, a fractured skull, internal bleeding in 3 separate organs. Her spine has compression damage. Her left leg is broken in 2 places." He turned to look at his assistant. "By every measurement I know, this creature should be dead. She should have died many times over. Yet her heart is still beating." Pell took a step back from the table. "What do we do?" "We prepare for emergency surgery," Thiessen said, trying to keep his voice steady. "We place her in stasis. We do everything we can." He paused. "And we prepare the crew for the likelihood that she will not survive the night." He reached for the stasis field controls. His fingers were just about to touch the button when the human's eyes opened. Thiessen froze. Pell screamed. The human blinked a few times. Her eyes were brown, like tree bark, and they moved around the room with slow confusion. She tried to sit up and groaned in pain, but she did not stop. She pushed herself up on her elbows, then her hands, until she was sitting upright on the medical table. She looked at Thiessen. She looked at the holographic display showing her broken skeleton. She looked at the medical equipment surrounding her. Then she opened her mouth and spoke. "Hey," she said. Her voice was rough and dry. "Anyone got coffee?" Thiessen could not move. He could not speak. He had practiced medicine for over 40 cycles. He had treated hundreds of species from across the galaxy. He had seen injuries that would haunt his dreams forever. But he had never seen anything like this. A patient with 17 old fractures and at least 6 new ones, sitting up and asking for a hot beverage as if nothing was wrong. "You," he managed to say, "you need to lie down. You are severely injured. Your bones are broken. Your organs are damaged. You should not be moving." The human looked at him with an expression he could not read. Then she looked down at her own body. She moved her arms experimentally, then her legs. She winced when she moved her left leg, the one broken in 2 places, but she did not cry out. "Yeah, feels like I got pretty banged up," she said. The ship's reactor went critical. Had about 30 seconds to get to the escape pod. Didn't quite make it in time. She shrugged, then immediately regretted it as pain shot through her broken ribs. "Could be worse. Could be worse?" Thiessen repeated, his voice rising. "Could be worse? You have 17 previously healed bone fractures and 6 new ones. You have internal bleeding. You have a cracked skull. In what possible way could this be worse?" The human thought about it for a moment. "Could be dead," she said simply. Thiessen stared at her. His medical training had not prepared him for this. His 40 cycles of experience had not prepared him for this. Nothing in the known galaxy had prepared him for a creature who could suffer this much damage to her body and respond with casual indifference. "I am Dr. Thiessen," he said finally, because he did not know what else to say. "You are aboard the Galactic Union vessel Serenity's Grace. You are safe. But you must let me treat your injuries." The human nodded slowly. "Fair enough. Name's Myra Chun, captain of the... former captain of the cargo ship you pulled me out of." She lay back down on the table, though she kept her eyes open. "Do what you gotta do, Doc. Just let me know if you find any coffee." Thiessen got to work. But as he treated her wounds, his mind kept returning to the same impossible question. How? How could any creature survive this much damage? How could any species evolve to treat broken bones like minor inconveniences? He did not know the answer yet, but he was beginning to suspect that humans were far stranger and far more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy had realized. Word the human. Survivor spread through the ship like fire. The next day, Myra received a visitor she did not expect. His name was Lieutenant Oren, and he was unlike any alien she had met so far. He had no solid body. Instead, he was made of swirling green gas contained inside a humanoid suit. The suit had a clear faceplate, and Myra could see the gas moving inside like smoke trapped in a bottle. "Captain Chun," Oren said, his voice coming from a speaker in the suit's chest. "I am the ship's cultural historian. I study the customs and histories of different species. I was hoping you might answer some questions about humanity." Myra was sitting in a chair now, her broken leg propped up on a cushion. Dr. Thiessen had insisted she rest, but he had given up trying to keep her in bed. She was too restless, too stubborn. "Sure," she said. "What do you want to know?" Oren floated closer. The gas inside his suit flickered with patterns of light that Myra guessed were some form of expression. "I've been researching human medical history since you came aboard. I found the records in your ship's database before it was destroyed. What I discovered was disturbing. Disturbing how? Your species has been practicing medicine for thousands of years, but your early methods were extremely primitive. Brutal, even." Oren's gas swirled faster. "I read about something called traction, the practice of pulling broken bones straight using ropes and weights. This was done while the patient was fully awake. Myra nodded. Yeah, that was before anesthesia. Before we had drugs to make people sleep during surgery. You performed surgery without pain relief. For most of human history, yeah. If you needed a limb cut off to stop an infection, they would give you a piece of leather to bite on and a bottle of alcohol to drink. Then they would saw through your bone while you screamed. Aaron's suit flickered with distress patterns. The green gas inside churned like a stormy sky. That is barbaric. That's survival, Mira corrected. We didn't have advanced technology. We didn't have alien medicine. We had to work with what we had. And what we had was determination and a high pain tolerance. But the suffering was worth it if you lived. That's always been the human way. Suffer now, survive later. Pain is temporary. Death is permanent. Myra leaned back in her chair. You want to hear something really crazy? There was a time when humans drilled holes in each other's skulls. Oren went very still. Excuse me? It's called trepanation. Ancient humans believed that evil spirits caused headaches and mental illness. Their solution was to cut a hole in the skull to let the spirits out. Myra tapped the side of her head. The wild thing is, many people survived it. We found skulls with healed trepanation wounds. The bone grew back around the hole. Your bones grew back around the hole in your skull? Told you we heal well. Oren was silent for a long moment. The gas inside his suit had stopped moving almost entirely, which Myra guessed meant shock. Finally, he spoke again. I have one more question, Captain Chun. In my research, I came across references to your home planet, Earth. The reports describe it as a Class 12 world. Myra raised an eyebrow. What does that mean? In galactic classification, worlds are ranked by their danger level. Class 1 is completely safe. Class 5 is considered challenging. Class 8 is where most intelligent species refuse to colonize. Oren paused. Class 12 is what we call a death world. A planet so hostile that intelligent life should never have evolved there at all. Myra laughed. Yeah, that sounds about right. You find this amusing? I find it accurate. Myra shifted in her chair, wincing as her ribs protested. Let me tell you about Earth. Our planet has extreme gravity compared to most life-bearing worlds. It's heavy. Everything is heavy. That's why our bones are so dense and why our muscles are so strong. We evolved to carry our own weight in a crushing environment. Go on, Oren said. Earth is covered in predators. Animals that hunt and kill other animals. For most of human history, we were prey. Big cats hunted us. Wolves hunted us. Bears, crocodiles, snakes, sharks. We had to fight every day just to stay alive. We learned to make weapons. We learned to work together. We learned to kill anything that tried to kill us. And the environment itself? Also trying to kill us. We have earthquakes that shake the ground apart. Volcanoes that vomit fire and poison gas. Hurricanes that flatten cities. Floods that drown entire regions. Droughts that turn farmland into desert. Our planet is frozen solid at least 5 times in its history. Each time, most life died. But not us. We survived. We always survived. Oren's gas had turned a darker shade of green. How? How did your species survive all of this? Because we're too stubborn to die. Myra's voice was hard now, not angry, but fierce. Every generation of humans faced something that should have wiped us out. Disease, famine, war, natural disasters. And every generation said no. Not today. We're not dying today. We fought. We adapted. We overcame. That's what humans do. That's all we know how to do. But the cost was high. Millions of humans died throughout our history. Billions probably. But enough of us survived to have children. And those children were tougher than their parents, stronger, more resistant to disease, better at healing. Evolution didn't make us comfortable. It made us survivors. Aaron floated backwards slightly. When your species encounters something that can kill you, what do? Myra smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator. We learn to kill it back. Or we die trying. There's no third option. That is terrifying. That's Earth. They sat in silence for a while. Aaron seemed to be processing everything Myra had told him. The gas inside his suit cycled through different colors, blues and yellows and deep purples that Myra could not interpret. Finally, Aaron spoke again. I think I understand now why the galactic community has been cautious about humans. You are not like us. You did not evolve in gentle conditions. You were forged in fire and blood and constant danger. Your bodies are weapons. Your minds are weapons. Your entire species is a weapon pointed at the universe. Myra shook her head. We're not weapons. We're survivors. There's a difference. Is there? A weapon exists to destroy. A survivor exists to live. We don't want to hurt anyone. We don't want to conquer the galaxy. We just want to live, to explore, to find our place among the stars. Myra met Orn's gaze through his faceplate. But if something threatens our survival, we will fight. We will always fight. Because that's what Earth taught us. That's the only lesson our planet ever gave us. Oren bowed his head slightly. Thank you for speaking with me, Captain Chun. I have much to consider. He floated out of the room, leaving Myra alone with her thoughts and her broken bones. She looked down at her hands, scarred and calloused from years of hard work. She thought about Earth, about all the humans who had suffered and died so that she could sit here on an alien ship, talking to creatures made of gas and light. We're survivors, she thought. That's all we've ever been. But somewhere deep inside, she wondered if Aaron was right. If millions of years of fighting to stay alive had turned humanity into something more than survivors. Something dangerous. Something that the galaxy should fear. She pushed the thought away. There were more important things to worry about, like finding some damn coffee. 3 hours had passed since the human woke up. Dr. Thiessen had done everything he could. He had sealed her internal bleeding. He had set her broken bones. He had wrapped her ribs and treated her head wound. Through all of it, the human had stayed awake, talking and asking questions and complaining about the lack of coffee on the ship dock. Now she sat on the edge of the medical bed, her legs hanging over the side, looking at the holographic display of her own skeleton. Thiessen stood next to her, his forearms crossed over his chest. He had not slept. He could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those 17 fracture lines glowing on the screen. So, Myra said, pointing at her left arm on the display, you want to know about the bones, right? That's why you keep staring at me like I'm some kind of monster. Thiessen flinched. I did not mean to stare. It is simply unprecedented. In my entire career, I have never encountered a patient with this many healed fractures. The maximum recorded survival rate for any known species is 7 fractures over a lifetime. You have 17. You should not be possible. Myra laughed. It was a strange sound, rough and warm at the same time. Doc, I hate to break it to you, but I'm pretty normal for a human. I know guys with way more broken bones than me. Tazan's mandibles clicked together in what Myra was learning to recognize as shock. More? How is that possible? How does your species function? We heal, Myra said simply. She pointed at the fracture line on her left arm. See that one? Broke my arm when I was 8 years old. Fell out of a tree in my grandmother's backyard. Hurt like hell. Cried for an hour. My mom took me to the hospital. They put it in a cast, and 6 weeks later, it was good as new. She traced her finger to another line. Broke it again when I was 12. Fell off my bicycle trying to do a jump. Same arm, different spot. Another cast, another 6 weeks. A cast? Thiessen asked. What is a cast? It's like a hard shell made of plate or fiberglass. You wrap it around the broken limb to keep the bone still while it heals. Thiessen felt sick. You mean your species wraps injured limbs in rigid material and simply waits for the bone to repair itself? Yeah, pretty much. Without replacing the bone? Without synthetic grafts? Without regeneration chambers? Myra shrugged. We don't have any of that stuff. Or we didn't until we met you guys. Human bones just heal on their own. Takes a few weeks for small breaks, a few months for bad ones. The bone grows back together. Sometimes it even grows back stronger than before. There was a sound from the doorway. Thiessen turned to see that a small crowd had gathered outside the medical bay. Crew members from all different species were peering in, their eyes wide with curiosity and fear. An Althrani ensign with shimmering blue skin. A Vorthan engineer with tentacles instead of arms. A small group of Peliki, the mouse-like species that handled the ship's electrical systems. Is it true? The Althrani ensign called out. Does the human really have 17 broken bones? Mira waved at the crowd. Hey there. Yeah, it's true. Want to hear about them? The crew members looked at each other nervously, then slowly entered the medical bay. They kept their distance from Mira, as if she might explode at any moment. Thiessen wanted to send them away, but he was too tired and too curious himself. Mira pointed at her collarbone on the display. This one was from rugby. That's a sport where you run around a field carrying a ball and other people try to tackle you to the ground. Tackle? Asked the Vorthan engineer. Hit you. Knock you down. Sometimes they land on top of you. Myra grinned. A guy twice my size slammed into me at full speed. Snap. Broke my collarbone clean in half. Finished the game, though. The Althrani ensign made a sound like a wounded animal. You continued playing? With a broken bone? Didn't realize it was broken until after. Thought it was just bruised. Adrenaline's a hell of a drug. Myra moved her finger to her ribs. These 3 were from a car accident. That's when 2 vehicles crash into each other. I was 19. Other driver ran a red light and hit me from the side. Broke 3 ribs, punctured a lung, spent 2 weeks in the hospital. And you survived? One of the Peliki squeaked. Obviously. I'm sitting right here. Thiessen stepped forward. What about the others? The remaining fractures? Myra thought for a moment. Let's see. Broke my toe kicking a door when I was angry. Broke 2 fingers in a fistfight. Cracked my kneecap slipping on ice. Broke my other arm wrestling a guy who was way stronger than me. She paused. Oh, and I fractured my hip falling down a flight of stairs while carrying a heavy box. That one sucked. Took almost 4 months to heal. The room was silent. Every alien in the medical bay was staring at Mira with a mixture of horror and fascination. Thiessen felt like he was looking at a creature from a nightmare. Not because she was scary, but because everything she said challenged everything he knew about biology. Your species, he said slowly, experiences this level of physical damage as a normal part of life? Pretty much, Myra said. I mean, I've had more breaks than average, but not by much. Most humans break at least a few bones growing up. Kids are clumsy. They fall out of trees, crash their bikes, get into fights, play rough sports. It happens. And your bodies simply repair themselves? Yeah, it's not fun. Breaking a bone hurts a lot. But we heal. We always heal. The Althrani ensign stepped forward, her crystalline bones visible through her translucent skin. Among my people, she said quietly, a single bone fracture is often fatal. Our bones do not heal. They shatter like glass and cannot be repaired. We must move carefully through life, always aware that one wrong step could kill us. Myra's expression softened. I'm sorry. I didn't know. How could you? You come from a world where breaking bones is normal, where pain is temporary, where bodies rebuild themselves. The ensign shook her head slowly. What kind of planet creates creatures like you? Mira was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, but there was something dark behind her eyes. A dangerous one, she said. A really, really dangerous one. The crowd began to whisper among themselves. Thiessen heard fragments of conversation. Words like death world and impossible and dangerous. He saw fear in their eyes, but also something else. Respect, maybe. Or Mira-Chun was a mystery wrapped in broken bones and scar tissue. She was living proof that the galaxy was stranger than any of them had imagined. And as Thiessen looked at her sitting on the medical bed, calmly discussing her 17 fractures like they were nothing, he realized that humanity might be the most terrifying species the galaxy had ever seen. Not because they were violent, not because they were cruel, but because they simply refused to break. No matter how many times their bodies shattered, they put themselves back together and kept going. That, Thiessen thought, was truly frightening. The alarm came without warning. A loud, screaming sound that filled every corridor of the Serenity's grace. Red lights flashed on the walls. Crew members ran in all directions, their faces twisted with fear. Myra was in her quarters when it started. She had been sleeping, or trying to sleep, her broken body demanding rest even as her mind refused to shut down. The alarm woke her instantly. She was on her feet before she fully understood what was happening. All crew to shelter positions. Commander Velas's voice echoed through the ship's speakers. This is not a drill. We are under attack. All crew to shelter positions immediately. Myra limped to the door of her quarters. Her broken leg screamed in protest, but she ignored it. She had felt worse. She had survived worse. In the corridor outside, she grabbed a passing crew member, a small Peliki with gray fur and terrified eyes. What's happening? Myra demanded. Raiders, the Peliki squeaked. Vrex slavers. They've disabled our engines. They're boarding us. Myra felt her blood run cold, then hot. She knew about the Vrex. Everyone who traveled through this sector knew about them. They were reptilian creatures, nearly 2 meters tall, covered in thick scales that could stop a knife blade. They raided ships, killed anyone who resisted, and sold the survivors as slaves to the criminal markets of the Outer Rim. Where are your weapons? Myra asked. Weapons? The Peliki looked confused. This is a research vessel. We have no weapons. No weapons at all? Nothing? We are scientists and diplomats. We do not fight. Myra let go of the Peliki and watched him scurry away toward the shelter areas. She stood alone in the corridor, her mind racing. A ship full of peaceful aliens. No weapons. No fires. And a crew of Rex slavers cutting through the hull, right? Now, she started moving toward the medical bay. Dr. Thiessen was there when she arrived, preparing emergency supplies with his 4 hands moving in frantic coordination. Captain Chun, he said when he saw her. You should be in the shelter area. You are injured. You cannot possibly help. What do you have that can cut? Mira asked, ignoring him. What? Cutting tools, lasers, anything that can burn through flesh. Thiessen's mandibles clicked nervously. I have a surgical laser. It is designed for precise incisions, not combat. Can you increase the power? Yes, theoretically. But why would you do it? Myra grabbed the laser from his equipment tray. It was small, designed to fit in a Calvary's delicate hands. It felt like a toy in her grip. What else? What about chemicals? Anything that burns? Thiessen pointed to a cabinet. Sterilizing solution. It is highly acidic. We use it to clean equipment. Myra grabbed 3 bottles and shoved them into a bag she found hanging on the wall. Her broken ribs protested every movement, sending sharp pain through her chest. She ignored it. Pain was just information. It told you something was wrong. It didn't mean you had to stop. There is a fire suppression system in the maintenance corridor, Thiessen said quietly. The canisters are pressurized. If you remove one from its housing, it becomes a projectile, Mira finished. She nodded. Good. What else? There are maintenance tools in the engineering section. Wrenches, pry bars, cutting torches. Myra was already moving toward the door. Thiessen grabbed her arm with 2 of his hands. Captain Chun, please. You have 6 fresh fractures. Internal bruising. A cracked skull that is barely healed. If you fight the Vrex, you will die. Myra looked at him. Her brown eyes were calm and steady. Maybe, she said. But if I don't fight, everyone on this ship dies or gets sold into slavery. I've seen what Vrex slavers do to their prisoners. I won't let that happen. You are one human. They are many. Then I'll have to be enough. She pulled free from his grip and limped out of the medical bay. Behind her, she heard Thiessen say something in his own language. It sounded like a prayer. The maintenance corridor was dark and quiet. Mira moved through it as silently as she could, which wasn't very silent with a broken leg. She found the fire suppression canisters right where Thiessen had said they would be. She pulled one free and tested its weight. Heavy. Good. She could use it as a club. If she ran out of other options from somewhere ahead, she heard the sound of metal being cut. The Vrex were burning through an airlock. They would be inside within minutes. Mira found a position behind a support beam, where she could see the airlock door but remain hidden. She set down the fire canister and the bag of chemicals. She adjusted the surgical laser in her hand, feeling the weight of it. Dr. Thiessen had been right. It was designed for precision, not power. But it would burn through flesh if she held it in one place long enough. The airlock door fell inward with a crash. 7 Vrex stepped through, their scales gleaming under the emergency lights. They were even bigger than Myra had expected. Each one carried a weapon that looked like a cross between a rifle and a blade. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never encountered prey that could fight back. The leader stopped in the middle of the corridor. He sniffed the air with his flat nostrils. I smell something, he hissed. Something different. Not like the others on this ship. Probably just fear, another Vrex laughed. These scientist types always stink of it. No, the leader sniffed again. This is something else. Something stronger. Mira stepped out from behind the support beam. The Vrex turned to look at her. For a moment, nobody moved. 7 massive reptilian warriors stared at a single injured human female standing in the corridor with a surgical laser in one hand and a fire suppression canister in the other. The leader tilted his head. What are you supposed to be? I'm your warning, Myra said. Turn around. Leave this ship. Take your friends and go back to whatever hole you crawled out of. The Vrex laughed. All 7 of them, a harsh barking sound that echoed off the metal walls. A warning? The leader repeated. You can barely stand. I can see you're injured. You have no armor, no real weapons, no backup. He took a step toward her. What exactly are you going to do, little creature? Myra smiled. It was not a friendly smile. I'm going to show you what happens when you corner something from a death world. She threw the first bottle of sterilizing acid directly at the leader's face. What happened next was chaos. The leader screamed as the acid burned through his scales and into his eyes. Mira was already moving. firing the surgical laser at the second Rex's throat. The beam wasn't powerful enough to kill instantly, but it was hot enough to make him drop his weapon and clutch at the smoking hole in his neck. The fire canister became a weapon in her hands. She swung it at the third Rex's knee, hearing the satisfying crunch of breaking bone. Then she was past him, throwing another bottle of acid, ducking under a blade that would have taken her head off. She fought like something wild. Something from Earth's ancient past, when humans hunted mammoths and fought wolves with nothing but sharpened sticks. Every movement sent pain screaming through her broken bones. Blood began to seep through her bandages. She didn't care. She couldn't care. Caring would slow her down, and slowing down meant dying. 3 Rex went down in the first 30 seconds. 1 dead, 2 badly wounded. The remaining 4 backed away, their confidence shattered. They had never seen anything like this. A creature that was clearly injured, clearly outmatched, fighting with the ferocity of a cornered predator. "What are you?" The leader gasped, still clawing at his burned eyes. Myra stood in the middle of the corridor, breathing hard. Blood ran down her face from a reopened wound. Her broken leg had given out, and she was standing on her good leg alone, using the wall for support. She looked like death warmed over, but she was still standing, still fighting, still smiling. "I'm human," she said, "and you made a mistake coming here." The remaining Rex ran. They grabbed their wounded and fled back through the airlock, scrambling over each other in their desperation to escape. Within seconds, they were gone. Their ship detached from the Serenity's grace and accelerated away, broadcasting warnings on all frequencies. "Do not board that vessel. There is something wrong with the creature inside. It is broken, and it keeps fighting. It is broken, and it does not stop." Myra collapsed against the wall, her strength finally giving out. She slid down to the floor, leaving a trail of blood on the metal. Her vision was going dark around the edges. Her body had reached its limit, but she was smiling. She had won. Mira woke up in the medical bay again. This was becoming a habit. Doctor Thiessen was standing over her, his 4 hands working on different parts of her body at once. One hand was checking her heartbeat. Another was adjusting and 4 drip. The third was scanning her ribs. The fourth was rubbing his forehead in what Myra was learning to recognize as exhausted frustration. "You are the most difficult patient I have ever treated," Thiessen said without looking at her. "In 40 cycles of medicine, across dozens of species, I have never encountered anyone who causes themselves as much damage as you." Mira tried to speak, but her throat was too dry. Thiessen handed her a cup of water. She drank it slowly, feeling the cool liquid soothe her parched mouth. "What's the damage?" she asked when she could talk again. Thiessen made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "Where do I begin? Your 3 broken ribs are now 5 broken ribs. Your fractured skull has reopened. You have torn muscles in your shoulder, your back, and your good leg. You have lost approximately 2 liters of blood. Your broken leg has stress fractures that will take months to heal." He paused. "You also have severe burns on your hands from the surgical laser overheating." Myra looked down at her bandaged hands. "Could be worse. That is exactly what you said the first time I treated you." Thiessen finally looked at her. His eyes, which Myra had learned to read a little bit over the past few days, were filled with something complicated. Fear, respect, wonder, confusion. How do you keep saying that? How do you look at your broken body and think it could be worse? "Because I'm alive," Myra said simply. "Everything else can heal." Thiessen shook his head slowly. "Among my people, there is a story, a legend from ancient times. It speaks of creatures called the Undying, beings who could not be killed no matter how much damage they suffered. We thought it was just a myth, a story to frighten children. He looked at her with his strange alien eyes. I am beginning to wonder if the stories were about humans. We're not undying, Myra said. We die all the time. We're actually pretty fragile compared to a lot of Earth creatures. We don't have claws or fangs or armor. We're slow and weak and soft. She smiled slightly. We just don't know when to quit. The door to the medical bay opened. Commander Valus walked in, her tall, crystalline form moving with careful grace. Behind her came Lieutenant Oren in his gas-filled suit, and a crowd of other crew members who stopped at the doorway, too nervous to come closer. Valus stood at the foot of Myra's bed. Her face was hard to read, but her voice was soft when she spoke. You saved us, she said. You saved everyone on this ship. The wrecks would have killed or enslaved us all. Because of you, we are free. I just did what needed to be done, Mira said. No, Valus shook her head. You did what no one else could do. What no one else would even try to do. You were injured, badly injured. And you still fought. You fought 7 armed warriors with nothing but medical supplies and maintenance equipment. And you won. I didn't really win. I just convinced them to leave. You convinced them by killing 3 of their crew and terrifying the rest so badly they fled without looking back. Valus's voice was filled with something like awe. I have commanded this ship for 15 cycles. In all that time, I have never seen anything like what you did. I have never even heard of anything like it. Myra didn't know what to say to that. She looked past Valus at the crowd gathered at the door. Altherani, Kelvary, Peliki, Vorthan, and others she didn't have names for yet. They were all staring at her with wide eyes. Some looked afraid. Some looked amazed. Some looked like they were seeing a ghost. Can I ask you something? Mira said to Valus. Something personal? Of course. How do you keep going? You said the Altherani have bones like glass. That one wrong step could kill you. How do you live like that? How do you get up every morning knowing how fragile you are? Valus was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled, a delicate expression on her elegant face. We do not, she said. We move carefully through life. We avoid danger. We build our society around safety and caution. We never take risks because we cannot afford to fail. She paused. That is why we are scientists and diplomats instead of warriors. That is why we had no weapons on this ship. We thought that if we were peaceful enough, the universe would be peaceful to us. And now? Now, I understand that the universe is not peaceful. It is dangerous and cruel and full of creatures who will hurt you simply because they can. Valus reached out and touched Myra's bandaged hand very gently. But I also understand that danger can be survived. That pain is not the end. That breaking does not mean staying broken. She turned to look at the crew gathered at the door. Humans are not undying, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. They are not immortal or invincible. They break just like the rest of us. But when they break, they heal. When they fall, they get up. When they are hurt, they keep fighting. That is what makes them special. Not strength, not power, persistence, the simple, stubborn refusal to give up. She turned back to Myra. I do not know if my people can learn to be like yours. Our bodies are too fragile. Our spirits are too cautious. But I can try to learn. We all can. She bowed her head slightly. Thank you, Captain Chun, for showing us what courage looks like. Myra felt her eyes sting with unexpected tears. She blinked them away quickly. You're welcome, she said. And call me Myra. Over the next few weeks, the story spread. The crew of the Serenity's Grace told their friends and families. Those people told others. Soon, the story was being shared across the entire trading station, then the sector, then the whole quadrant. The tale grew with each telling. The human became 10 humans, then 100. The wrecks became 50, then 100. The battle became a war. But the core of the story stayed the same. A broken creature stood against impossible odds and refused to die. A human fought until there was nothing left to fight, and then kept fighting anyway. The Galactic Union updated its diplomatic protocols. Under the entry for humans, a new note was added in red text. Do not engage. Do not threaten. If injured, they become more dangerous, not less. Approach with caution and respect. Mira healed slowly. Dr. Thiessen wrote a paper about her. It was titled Preliminary Observations on Human Skeletal Regeneration and Pain Tolerance. It became the most downloaded medical document in Galactic Union history. Scientists across the galaxy studied it, trying to understand how any species could survive what humans survived. When Myra was well enough to move around, Commander Valus offered her a job. Security consultant for the Serenity's Grace, a position that had never existed before because the ship had never needed one. I don't know anything about alien security systems, Myra said. That is fine, Valus replied. We do not need you to know our systems. We need you to be here, to remind us that danger can be faced, to show us that breaking is not the end. Myra thought about it for a long time. She thought about Earth, about her family, about the cargo ship that had brought her to this strange corner of the galaxy. She thought about 17 broken bones, and all the time she should have died but didn't. Okay, she said finally, but I have one condition. Name it. Someone on this ship has to learn how to make coffee. Valus smiled. I think that can be arranged. Months later, Mira sat in the ship's common area with a cup of something that was almost, but not quite, coffee. Dr. Thiessen sat across from her with a tablet, updating her medical records. Lieutenant Orn floated nearby, his gas swirling with contentment. A group of Paliki were gathered around the table, playing a game Mira had taught them. This is unacceptable, one of the Paliki squeaked, throwing down his cards. You cannot have 4 aces. No one can have 4 aces. I can, Myra said, grinning. I'm just lucky. Luck has nothing to do with it. You are cheating somehow. Prove it. The Paliki made a frustrated sound and demanded another round. Myra shuffled the cards, her scarred hands moving with practiced ease. She was still healing. Her bones still ached. Her muscles still complained. But she was alive. She was among friends. And somewhere out there, the story of the human with 17 broken bones was still spreading, still growing, still teaching the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. Myra-chan smiled and dealt the cards. Life, she had learned, was full of pain, but it was also full of moments like this. Quiet moments. Happy moments. Moments that made all the broken bones worth it. And if someone tried to take those moments away from her, well, she had already shown the galaxy what happened to people who threatened what she cared about. They learned the hard way that humans don't know how to quit.